Hello.
Hello and welcome to the MG EVs podcast, streaming live on Monday the 13th of December 2021. We're here to talk about all the MG electric vehicles, hoping to inform and entertain you for about an hour or so. I'm Miles Roberts, username miles per kilowatt-hour on the forum, and joining us this week are from just near Oslo in Norway, we have John Griffiths.
Everybody, John Griff on the forum.
And from the Midlands, we have MG EVs forum moderator and owner, Stuart Wright.
Good evening, folks. Stuart Wright on the forums.
And I'm Miles Roberts I'm the Innovations Development Manager at Chorley Group, miles per kilowatt hour on the forum. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and please click the like button and join in on the discussion in the chat window. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to watch this video, and please subscribe to get a notification when we go live next time. In tonight's podcast, we're going to be talking about 2021 sales here and in the UK and also in Norway for MG. We'll talk about our thoughts on driving the refreshed ZS EV. And we're going to take all of your questions in the chat as well. So if you've got any questions, feel free to add those. So first of all, sales figures. I guess we'll go to Norway first. So I've got a chance to actually pull some figures up for UK.
Okay, I don't know where we are for December as we're nearly halfway through it, but the total sales for Norway for the month of November were just over 15,000, and of those 100% electric, fully electric, zero CO2 emissions, 11,274. That's nearly 74% were. So three out of four cars bought in Norway were fully electric. Not bad considering the supply chain problems. MG sales for November were unfortunately only 35, due in part obviously to the fact that the facelifted version has only just been launched. And I know they're trying to deliver some before the end of the year, but the majority of the new orders weren't due to be delivered to customers until first quarter, January, February, March time of next year. Bit of a sad state of affairs because 644 was sold in November 20. So probably for MG, the timing of the launch was perhaps not the best in terms of their year-end figures. But it meant that the sales for November were down 95% approximately compared to November. And as you see, the year-on-year sales were 221 up to the end of November of 2,379. And the same period last year, they were 3,362. So year-on-year sales are down 29%. I tried to dig out some numbers on the Marvel R, but the place I go to get my stuff, the numbers, only lists the top 20. And I tried to hazard a guess, as you'll see in the numbers in the second slide. But total sales in November were 151. Well, knowing that they're not selling the hybrid HS any longer, I'm thinking that approximately 120, 115 were actually Marvel Rs. Again, back to November, it was only the ZS, so there were 644. So total year-on-year sales for 21 are 2,818. The majority of those, quite a few HSs must have been sold as well. And 220 was 3,362. So I don't think they'll beat their 220 total for the year. So year-on-year sales are down about 26%, but still not a bad showing. As far as the most sold cars in the year, what we've got Tesla way ahead of the bunch. It looks like they're going to be the manufacturer in Norway that takes the crown by the end of the year. As you can see down at the bottom of the page, we've got the ZS EV with its 35 for the month and the Marvel R with approximately 110. The real surprise that I found when I went through this list was the number of Porsche Taycans that were sold. It's talking a car that's on average probably about 100,000, 110,000 pounds, and they sold 431. They were only 50 behind the Ioniq 5, which is just, it makes you wonder. But they were talking about putting tax on cars at over 50,000 pounds in Norway electric cars. but the government decided not to do that. So it's quite possible that that Porsche got an extra allocation of cars. But it's the same list as before. There's nobody really new coming into it. I don't think the new Neo ES8 has sold very many. They weren't pushing very hard. But you can see here we've got a BYD Tang, which is in 13th place, and they sold 400 last month in November. And they've announced that you can get a car now if you want, because they've got a big boatload delivered. But Ioniq 5, there's no numbers on here for the Kia, which is quite an interesting car. They just started to, you can get a test drive in the GT now. But and the EQA from Mercedes seems to pick up numbers. But again, it's still amazing how many e-trons are still being sold in Norway. But the Q4 is the one up at the top there, number 4, that seems to have taken over the throne for Audi this time around. Or that being said, spec'd up, it's probably nearly as dear as an Audi e-tron 50, and the 55 is a luxury car. I wouldn't say that the Q4 is. So, and the biggest surprise of all was the Leaf. 655 sold in November, which put it into 5th place. But I think they had some very aggressive leasing deals. You get a leasing deal with not a lot of money down for around about 175 to 180 pounds a month, which over on a 3 year.
That's aggressive, yeah. That is aggressive.
Aggressive, yeah.
Our cheapest deal in the UK at the moment on a Leaf is about 250 a month, still, which is quite aggressive for the current market in the UK.
Right.
Yeah, 180. That's pretty giving them away, I suppose, in a way.
Right, and interestingly enough, the main dealer for Nissan is also part owner of the MG. So you're selling Nissans and MG side by side in the same showroom. But certainly there's a brand loyalty to it, even though it's a bit long in the tooth. It's it's the cut down version, but nevertheless, it's still an impressive number. And then the up to year date for the cars that were sold, that's a bit easier to talk about. The top 20, we've got the MG just in there at number 20. As I said, it would have been further up the list had it not been for the fact that couldn't get enough of the new models to sell, and I think they were sold out of the pre-model like mine behind at the end of September. So it's been rather quiet for them. But again, you see Tesla's the top of the tree here with 10,000 cars delivered. Whether there's a big push in December again, as it's the end of quarter, I would imagine. But the Model 3 is slipped. It's over here. It's the Model Y that is the king, because it's the hatchback and it's more SUV-like. But Volvo's done quite well with the XC40 in total, 6,000 units, and the Polestar as well, but that's number 4. I was quite surprised when I saw the numbers for the XC40, but I'm not sure if there's some of the petrol-driven ones in it. They just announced today that the hybrid version, the 2-engine one, will not be sold from the new year in Norway, so it's basically only the electric one that you want it in 4-wheel drive. And ENIAC and EQC, the Mercedes, again, its total sales haven't been on sale that long, 3.7. So the e-Niro, there's a lot of campaigns for that at the moment. Around about 2,400 have been sold. But the Kuna, again, seems to have slipped out of favor. And I'm just wondering if that's because you've got the Ioniq 5, which, as you can see here, is the 12th most sold. But again, what the problem there is getting the 4-wheel drive. You can get a 2-wheel drive one pretty quickly, a few days delivery. But if you want the 4-wheel drive, you have to wait a while. And the Kia's not on here. I'll try and put a link up, because there was a really good video posted of a guy down in the south of Norway. They had some terrible snowstorms here last week. Got nearly a meter of snow in a day. And he rented a Kia, or he got a Kia, the 2-wheel drive one from one of the dealers down there. And he's done a video. And it's absolutely amazing the hill he gets up. It's very, very steep. And he starts it, and it doesn't slip. It just goes a bit more slowly. But he couldn't get the big, what is it, the BMW, the iX3, the big one. It wouldn't start. Couldn't get it on the same hill. And it's worth a look. So, and he went up with a 4-wheel drive one, and it was not a problem. So that's the list. Be interested to see how the MG Marvel fares. hopefully we'll see some numbers start to pop through in the end of this month and in January. But I think the main deliveries are not going to be before January, February of next year, both for that and the facelifted version of the ZS. So don't think MG will sell as many cars, ZSs, as they did last year, but maybe total sales will exceed what they've
yeah, and I think obviously from next year you've got the MG5, you've got the facelift ZS EV. Marvel R delivery should start hopefully a bit more in earnest. So I think that probably next year will be a much better year for MG in Norway.
Right.
So obviously in the UK we've had the MG5 this year, which has bolstered sales figures because it's an additional model that we weren't selling. It doesn't really compete with the ZS that much. So it's not like people go into a showroom and go, all right, I can't decide between the ZS and the 5. You know, it'd be usually they'd go for what, you know, they'd want an SUV or they'd want an S8.
Right.
And if you want an S8 EV, you've got a choice of the MG5 or the Taycan Turismo, whatever it's called, and that's a big difference in price. You can have like 6 MG5s at the cost of a Taycan.
Absolutely.
So.
But again, I think they've been a bit kinder with you guys in the UK with the price increase. The price has gone here they're only selling the luxury model, the connected, is it called connected trophy in the UK? And here it's like 350,000. So they put it up about £7,000, £6,500. It's just doing a quick calc in my head.
Transacted values are similar actually. So in the UK, the previous model was being discounted down to about £23,000 on a new car at various points this last year, and the new version, which again Trophy Connect, that's like 30,500. So it is a good sort of £7,000 more as an actual transaction price because we haven't got the discounts on the new one. So
right.
But thank you very much for that, John. That's great.
No problem.
I'll have a quick look at the UK sales figures just to compare. So I haven't got a full breakdown of this because MG haven't given it. There's a dealer conference in January in London. I'm going to very early. It's like 6th, 7th of January. And that's when they'll give us all the sales figures broken down by model and all that sort of thing. But at the moment, I'm relying on the SMMT figures for the UK. And the general trends in the UK are very positive for electric vehicles generally. So battery electric vehicles so far this year, there's been 163,000 battery electric vehicles sold in the UK versus 130,000 diesels. So overall, battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids together are outselling quite. They account for so far market share this year is 10.6% for electric and 6.9% for plug-in hybrid, whereas last year it was 5.8% for battery electric and 3.9% for hybrid. So yeah, they're up massively. They're up, it's almost double what they did last year in terms of sales, 89% increase in battery electric sales this year. For November, MG has had a storm of a month. So MG has registered 4,184 cars this month in the UK.
Wow.
Thanks partially due to the fact that they found a load of stock for cars that have been waiting for ages. So ZS, petrol and HS and so on have had a really long wait because they were waiting for components and things like that. So they finally shipped them all in, and so they got registered. And then, of course, there's all the demonstrators for the new longer range version of the ZS as well. So, yeah, so MG accounted for 4,184 sales this month versus 866 this time last year. So an increase of about 4 times.
Most of that's down to the fantastic offer that you put to MG EV's forum members, right?
Yeah, no, so the MG is currently 3.6% of the UK market share, which, looking at other brands, excuse me, apologies, I couldn't find the mute button. So to give you a comparison, Skoda is 2.67%. So yeah, MG sold a lot of cars this month. So yeah, 4,000 cars means that actually Nissan only registered 4,977 in November. So yeah, it's not so far behind Nissan. and about 4 times what Honda did. So, and year to date, MG has sold 29, as registered up to the end of November, 29,474 cars, which is roughly 1.92% of market share. And that's versus 17,000 by this point last year. So they're up 73% year on year. And as I say, a lot of that is incremental business with the new MG5s. It's also obviously the HS FEV as well. And it's also the facelift petrol ZS. The ZS model, including petrol and electric, was in the top 10 most sold cars in the UK this month. So I think that's made quite a few people sort of sit up and take notice of that, and it just shows that MG are here, and they mean business. One thing that caught my eye this week actually, and it's I suppose a bit of Schadenfreude for me, but it's the Renault Zoe and Euro NCAP tested in 2021, last done in 2013 when it launched, and they've changed it sufficiently now to the point where it had to get re-safety tested, and it scored 0. It's only the third car to ever score 0 on Euro NCAP. The previous model in 2013 scored 5 stars. And part of the reason is because the testing criteria has got harder. So if you don't have autonomous braking, if you don't have all those sort of active safety features, then you can't score 5 stars anyway. But the major issue is that they've changed the airbags on the seats. So the side airbags that inflate out of the side if you have an impact previously went all the way up and protected your head. Now they just do the thorax. So in the side pole impact test, the dummy's head hit the pole, which was a fail. So it strikes me. We actually had today somebody that had ordered for quite a few people that have ordered Zoes and cancelled them and come to us. There's a guy actually who took delivery of a brand new Zoe on Friday. The report came out on Friday lunchtime. He took it back to the dealer and rejected it. He said he didn't want it because he said it was not fit for purpose if it's 0 stars. So he's actually come and bought a car off us today. So it's not good news for Renault, but it is also quite good to show that, people say about these Chinese cars, but the MG ZS EV got 5 stars in 2019, and it's got the forward collision detection. It's got all that sort of, safety kit. The Marvel R was tested this year, so that's on the more strict way, and that got 4 stars on NCAP. But you don't have to be an SUV to get a good safety rating. The Fiat 500e got 4 stars this year on the NCAP test. So Renault really don't have any excuses to get a 0. In the Dacia Logan got 2 stars.
Yeah.
So it has no autonomous emergency braking in it.
No, the new Zoe, no. So the Zoe with the 50 kilowatt-hour battery and everything else, and CCS, the new version of it. So it doesn't have it at the moment. It doesn't have any safety kit. Now they will be bringing an option out
in March, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, March next year. They'll bring out an option of having the safety kit on there. But the current model, as it's currently sold and has been for the last sort of 12 months, has scored 0.
They should bring in a law to say that every single new vehicle on the road has to have autonomous emergency braking.
Absolutely.
But it's part of the reason why MG didn't test the 5 when it first came out, because it was they knew it was going to be a short-lived thing, and that by the time they got it tested, it had been superseded with the long range, which has all the autonomous stuff on it. So they didn't bother putting it through because they knew they wouldn't be able to get more than 3 stars if they didn't have the autonomous stuff on it. But the fact that, to score 0, that's poor in this day and age, particularly from a company like Renault, who pride themselves on getting 5 stars in. The Laguna was the first 5-star car.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a 5-star car. So it's really, really poor show from those guys. So I'm disappointed on behalf of Renault. Thank goodness we don't have any Renault dealers in our group. But it's it just goes to show though as well that just because a car was considered safe before doesn't mean it necessarily is now. What we you can't compare an NCAP test from 2013 with one today and think that the same value. They're not. And obviously, in the case of Renault, they've changed the car significantly to the point where the airbag protection isn't the same. So that's quite poor.
Did the Dacia get 1 star, didn't it? The new electric Dacia.
Yeah, the Dacia Spring got 1 star. The Dacia Logan got 2 stars. So yeah, it's.
Now, there was quite a cryptic remark from either Dacia or Renault about the safety, and it was an okay car, but the testing doesn't lie. So it was also interesting to see, as we said earlier, that you could get a car in March with the automatic braking. So I agree with Stuart. It's a must-have. I think they said in that report.
The side pole thing, there was what was the nail in the coffin, really. You know, the fact that it, the dummy's head hit the pole actually through the metalwork in the car. You know, through the side of the roof and hit the actual car pole. That's a fatal. So that's a you can't get any very good on that. So
everyone watching live now, if you agree that all new vehicles, not just cars but lorries as well, should have autonomous emergency braking, just type a thumbs up in the chat, because and if you have been saved, if you've avoided an accident because your car has braked itself, just type briefly what happened in the chat, because it's happened to me. I just, my attention was diverted momentarily, and I would have had a rear end shunt if it wasn't for my car braking. It's especially if you're thinking about pedestrians on crossings and stuff.
Absolutely.
It could save lives. So
Yeah, I think it's quite important. So I think that, I just thought it was worth mentioning there. But obviously the ZS EV is 5-star rated. We haven't seen the rating yet for the new MG5. I don't know if they're going to be waiting for the facelift version because of Europe being the version. So that's probably the one they're going to safety test, I'd have thought. So looking through some of the chat from people. When will the 51 kilowatt-hour battery version get launched, and when will bookings start? Give dates and prices. I'm really sorry about that. We haven't been given any details as yet, and I suspect it's going to be probably, in the UK at least, it's going to be February or March before we actually get any details of that. They haven't started shipping customer cars deliveries for the longer range version as yet in any sort of volume. We're hoping that there's going to be some in December, but most of them are going to be January, February, March. So I would imagine they're going to get those out of the way before they talk about the 51 kilowatt battery version.
Bharat's in India. I just want to shout out, I did reach out to some of our forum members from India a while back to invite them on the podcast, because the forum caters to everybody across the globe who's interested in MG EVs, and I would like the podcast as well to appeal to everybody, to be relevant to everybody, which is why we've had some people from recently, Jennifer in Tasmania, from from Australasia, and obviously John here is from Norway. If anybody from the other regions of the world would like to come onto the podcast and talk about what it's like owning an MG EV in your country, in your region, please do get in touch on the forums. Just send me a private conversation, Stuart Wright, because we'd love to have you on just to talk about it so that we can make the podcast relevant to people everywhere, really.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And I've seen, when will it be launched in India? Again, but I'm sorry, we don't know when it's going to be launched in India. You'll have to speak to the Indian importer. It's a different network to what we have in UK and Europe. So I don't know, I'm sorry. I think that, we've had some questions on the actual forum as well. So let me just have a quick look at the podcast questions on there. Apologies, I'm switching between about 7 windows here, and I'm not as good as I should be.
So from Odo No, he's asking, any news when the first batch of ZS EV long range are hitting our shores?
And he's in the UK, that's fine. So we were hoping that there's going to be something for December, but winter and long distance cargo transport doesn't go together very well. And at the moment, some of the boats have been delayed. So we're hoping that there's going to be some in time for Christmas. But at the moment, and I saw somebody else commented earlier and saying on YouTube, where was it? Somebody said that, do the cars just turn up from China without MG UK knowing about it? Not quite, but MG UK probably know, but they don't want to commit to a date until they do actually land. Dealers don't know about it until they land. So we've got cars that we've ordered, and they're all showing March, April. But then we'll randomly say, okay, we've allocated you a car and it's coming next week. So it makes it really hard from our planning point of view. And we've been told that they're trying to improve the software system, the back end that does all this ordering system. But it's quite a long-term project because it's hard to do a complete refresh of a system you're live working every day, apparently. So yeah. So
I think you have one advantage in the UK, that I understand that the boat comes directly from China, whereas for the cars that we're getting up here in Norway, they go via Holland first, or Rotterdam, or with one of the ports, and then they've got to wait there till there's capacity to get them up here. I also heard somebody from Neo telling me they were squeezing cars on boats if there was a space, a car ended up on it.
Yeah, that's the same. So what MG told us, that if, for example, Tesla has a problem with production, or somebody else who's got a ship bound for UK, they'll call up every day and they say, okay, so you're supposed to have 250 Teslas on this boat. How many are you actually having? Because if you've got 10 spaces, we'll take them.
Yeah, right. That's what I've heard here.
So we get some boats turn up with 4,000 cars on, and we get some cars, some like 10s and 20s and whatever, turn up at ports. That makes it a bit of a, I suppose, difficult.
I think it's similar here with the deliveries, because some people have been called out and said, "Oh, your car's available," and I think somebody wasn't supposed to get one until February, but that color came in, so that was the one that they got. And the same has happened with some of the facelifted ZSs. So, but when do you get the facelifted 5 in the UK?
It's not officially been told to us yet.
Okay.
Off the record, of course, this is. It was mid 2022 was when it was likely to come to the UK. Now I suspect that will be when they announce it, and we won't get them until September. So there will be quite a lag, I think, with the right and drive market, MG5. But most MG5 buyers in the UK, to be fair, I think they're quite okay with how it looks in terms of the performance of it, in terms of the range and everything that they're going for, and the price point. So whether it has the new bumper, obviously they'd like to have the new bumper, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker right now. If the car does the job, they'll take it now. What we're also seeing at the moment is, because of the strong residual prices that we're seeing on all used cars at the moment, is that we've got an incredible number of people who are upgrading from the ZS EV to the long range within a year, 18 months of having one. And that's not something you'd normally see on a normal car. You'd normally be locked in for a few years until the depreciation had got to a point where you're a bit more comfortable about it. Whereas because the depreciation has been so limited over the last the first sort of 18 months, rather than being the free fall it usually is, we've got people who are really in quite strong positions to swap up and to get the extra range. And that,
is there some appreciation? Is there some appreciation?
There has been some, but yeah,
I've seen that.
I know people who bought cars for 23 grand and they were offered 23 grand, 6 months later. So it's with miles on and everything. So yeah, I think it's a strange market in the way at the moment, but there are a number of people who are swapping cars sooner than they would usually, which means there's going to be a whole load more MG owners, because there's been plenty of used cars on the market for them people to take, probably from sort of February, March time. The the next thing I suppose we'll talk about is the new ZS EV long range, and obviously I've had a driving experience with it, and I've also done a video about the iSmart app and connectivity and how that actually works, and it actually seems to work pretty well, to be honest. It's quite swift to respond. It's certainly more towards the Tesla end of things than the Nissan Leaf. It seems to work very well, and it actually more reliable. Doesn't crash as much as the app for the Volvo that my wife's got now.
Not a lot of users yet.
The XC40 app my wife has, she swipes up on that and it says that the car's not working, or it's not connecting or whatever, or it randomly draws the car in a strange position on the screen. It doesn't actually format it properly. You have to close it down and reopen it, whereas the iSmart app, to be fair, worked pretty damn quickly. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that. I think the drive's great. We're having a lot of test drives and a lot of people who are say, switching on benefit of the test drive. Not many people have driven the car and gone, yeah, no, actually I'll stick with what I've got. A lot of people are buying it because it's an improvement on the previous model, and they've got the obviously the benefits of the extra range. So, Stuart, you're an off-come, didn't you, from Ionic background? What are your thoughts on the car? I've seen you've done a video online. Do you want to share with the group what you thought?
Yeah. So I took a test drive, not actually for the purposes of talking about it on here, but because I've seriously been thinking about getting it. I've had my Ionic since new 2017. It's done 35,000 miles, and its real world range is now about 140 miles. I've got a son at university up north a little bit, and it'd be nice to go and visit him. Also, this was expecting the pandemic to be slowing down now, but in any case, at some point when it does, I'll be wanting to go away, with my partner for weekends away and fancy visiting Edinburgh and stuff like that. And 140 miles, I think, is not going to be great. So I have been looking around for an EV with longer range. So we took this for a test drive. Because the last time I actually sat in one was when we met up at the Gaydon Car Museum in 2019, when I decided to launch the forum, Miles, so I thought it was great. I mean, you can see there's a couple of occasions. I've never owned a car with a sunroof, for example. Never spent much time in a car with a sunroof. So for me, this was sort of, wow, look at that. And so we spent some time playing with that. The video that's up, it's embedded in the forum. If you want to have a look, you can find it in the ZSEV forum. I only sort of talked about the elements that occurred to me during the really short, like less than half an hour test drive that we had. So I missed a lot of stuff, like didn't even talk about the app because we never got a chance to have a play with it. So it was just like, my experience of driving in the 20 minutes. And there were lots of things that I really liked about it, and there were way more than things that I didn't like about it. I thought it was a really great car, and if it wasn't for the fact that I'm sort of feel like I'm getting on a bit, and I should damn well have the car that I really want. Well, I can't afford a Tesla Model S Plaid, which is the car I really want. The one that I can maybe justify, which is a Tesla Model 3. If it wasn't for the fact that that I'm really kind of pretty bullish about having one of those, I would pick this car because it ticks so many boxes. It has so many features, and I was really impressed. And so I talk about stuff for it's fairly random, unordered little mini review that I did. But you can see there's a couple of places in it where the emotion got to me. I said to my partner, I really like this. And
she like it as well.
Yes. We were comparing it to my Ionic, and we've had a test drive of the EV6, and we had a test drive in March of the Tesla Model 3. At the time, in March, I'd built up my anticipation too much about the Tesla Model 3, so I came away sort of disappointed. It's like, oh, well, I expected to be blown away, and I wasn't. The EV6, though, she really liked the EV6. She thought it was luxurious inside. So one of my questions was, well, is this as good as our Ionic? And she said, well, it's kind of about the same, I guess. It's not as good as the EV6. Well, the EV6 is to get all the features and stuff and the range, the EV6 is 20 grand more expensive. So it's like, okay, is it 20 grand better? Well, it's not her money, is it? So and like I said in the video, if I want a car with decent range and comfort and lots of features, I would have, if it wasn't for this, the refreshed ZSEV, I'd have maybe thought, well, maybe a Kona or e-Niro, something like that. As far as I'm concerned, this is a no-brainer. If I wasn't so stubborn about now getting a Tesla, I would go for this, no question.
One of the things that I like about the new long range is obviously the range is great, but the range isn't actually falling away quite as much as I felt it did on the old version. So on the normal ZSEV in winter, real world, you're going to see probably like, we say about 180 kilometers, John. About
Yeah, we're only doing short
miles.
journeys, and I reckon we're getting about 180 max, and you're not going to run it down. So we're charging twice a week at the moment.
I think part of the problem as well is obviously that because you don't have the percentage readout on there, you know, once it gets to sort of, you know, the last block on the 8-bar gauge, you've got 25% in, but you don't trust it.
Good stuff, nearly, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas obviously in the new version, you can take it right down. However, myself and Jake Newis from the forum, we took it the car out and did a charging test. The idea was to go to an Ionity charger and test the charging rate. And what we did was we went to Ionity, and there was a queue of 6 cars for 4 chargers. So we sold that. So we went to the next nearest 150 kilowatt chargers, which were about 25 miles away. And as we were going there, we had 27 miles left on the car, because I tried to run the battery down in anticipation of getting to the Ionity, thinking I want to be let down to sort of like 10% to give it a good charge. But yeah, so we had about 14%, I think, when we got to Ionity. So I drove from Ionity to Barnsley, to the Instavolts there, and I think we got there with like 6%, no, 3% left. Sorry, 3% left into. But we noticed that when we were on the motorway when we had 7% left, it went into restricted power mode.
Right.
We couldn't go above 50 miles an hour up this hill, which got to the point then that we felt that we really shouldn't be on the motorway, because it was raining and there was trucks coming up behind us quite fast in the dark.
Chugging along at 50 miles an hour.
I'm sort of gradually slowing down as I go up this hill on past Woolly Edge services. So we pulled off the motorway and went onto the A roads to Barnsley. That was useful actually to know that there is this restricted power mode, because I haven't noticed that particularly in the other cars, in the MG5 and so on. So I suspect that the battery voltage must be quite low at that point. And what we were seeing was that when we put it onto the battery, even at 30 miles an hour, going up an incline in town, going up towards this charger, the battery voltage dropped down to, I think, 200. I don't know, going down 280 volts, I think it was. So really, really quite low, and that's why it was restricting the power, because it couldn't. It was, you know, the cell voltage was dropping too low. But we did a charge test, and it got to 76 kilowatts, but it maintained 76 to 70 kilowatts charge rate for a very, very large portion of the charging. And we went from 3% to 83% in 42 minutes, I think it was.
Okay.
So, which is pretty much bang on the numbers that MG state. Now, we later found out that the Instavolt chargers that we use, although they're 150 kilowatt chargers, they're actually limited to a 200 amp output, which, with the lower battery voltage on the facelift car, means that it maxes out at 400 volts as the battery.
Right.
So, and obviously you're only going to get 400 volts when it's up to sort of 90%. Well, you're not going to pull 200 amps at that point. So you can't ever get past 800, can't ever get past 80 kilowatts charge rate on that charger because of the ampage limit. So I don't know if we took it to a 350 kilowatt Instavolt charger, whether we would have got a better charge rate. And certainly the charge rate that we saw from what they're called in Netherlands.
Ned something, is it?
Yeah.
Is it Fastned?
Fastned, yeah. So they put a charge rate on that. It looks as if it peaks higher. So it would be interesting to say about. One of the interesting thing though was the battery heater. We used the battery heater on the car, and when the battery was cold, it was pulling 7 kilowatts, just the battery heater, and then it dropped down to about 3 kilowatts. But it seemed to do a good job because it was only a few degrees outside, and we turned up this rapid charger, and it was up to sort of 70 amps pretty quick. It was 70 kilowatts pretty quick. So I think the battery heater does work in the new version, and it's worthwhile using. But bear in mind, it does also, because it's pulling 7 kilowatts of power, it chugs through quite a lot of your range. If you're going to leave it on for an hour, you're going to potentially lose sort of 25 miles or so of range, aren't you? So it's worth bearing in mind, if you're thinking about using it, you've got to make sure you're not running yourself down to 3% like we were, that you're then trying to use a battery heater.
We had a service a couple of weeks ago, and they said that the software had been updated and the option for the battery warmer on the pre-facelift version had been removed. But I checked and it wasn't removed. But it looks like it's never worked, or if it does work, it only works below a certain temperature. But
the logic works well on the new version. So on the new version, it's off by default. If you set it on, it's only on for that key turn, should we say, event. So when you turn the car off, it's then off the next time you turn the car
That's
off.
what's happening with what's installed on ours. It doesn't stay on, but I don't think it's working. I've got this ODB Talk Pro dongle, and I've tried to check to see whether the battery temperature increases, and it doesn't seem to work.
Well, this chewed through a lot of power doing it, and you could see on the output gauge that it was pulling quite a lot of amps through. So, so that was useful to test anyway, and that was thanks Jake for coming out. We didn't get back till about midnight or something stupid because I picked him up at about 7 o'clock, and then we went to Leeds, and then we had to go and burn to Barnsley, and then we charged for like an hour to make sure that it got the full charge curve, and then we had to come back and drop him off and then back home. So yeah, it was quite a late night. It was, as I chucking it down with rain and very cold. So
if you're getting 70 something over a large part of the state of charge, from say 10 to 65%, then that's not too bad. I
was like, I'll double check the figures. So the figures were, so we were pulling. So basically, from it started off at like 61 kilowatts. By the time I got to 10%, it was up at 69 kilowatts. It was pulling 200 amps all this time, but obviously the battery voltage was at 349 volts, so it couldn't get a higher charge rate because of that. And then we were pulling 71, 77, 76 was the peak we saw at 60% when the battery voltage was at 379 volts, 90 volts. And then, in fact, that was, in 30 minutes, it had gone from 3% to 58%. And it had quite a bit of range in that time. And then, so 45 minutes it took to get to 82%. And then it got to 91% after a full hour, and that's when we disconnected.
So in that situation, you got with 60 something percent, you've got nearly 200 kilometers of range.
Yeah,
you
get a good chunk of range in that time. So, it maintained 70 kilowatts up until 70%. It tailed off down to about 60 kilowatts until it got to 82%, and then it got down.
That's quite respectable.
Yeah, I was reasonably chuffed with it, to be fair, because I think that I say it may have been able to go faster. We just don't know if that charger was it was pulling 200 amps the entire time it could. So that's so that's good news anyway. I think we just need to test it again on Ionity, but 70 pence per kilowatt hour and a queue of 6 cars, I was quite happy to pay 40 pence per kilowatt hour at the.
Yeah, there were a couple of people saying over here, because of the price of electricity, it was cheaper to go out and charge it, a paid charge than it was to charge at home a couple of weeks ago.
25 quid to charge the car on that Instavolt, which sounds like a lot, but it's because it took 6. I've got the photo here. 1 second. It took it's 40 pence per kilowatt hour, and it took £25.29. It's 40 pence per kilowatt hour, and it took 63.23 kilowatt hours on, during that time. So it's a fair, in an hour. So it's averaged at 63 kilowatts is the average charge for an hour. So that's pretty decent charge rate, I think, as an average, to get up to 92% as well by the end of it. I think that's
a big improvement over the pre-facelift.
Yeah, massive. Yeah.
It's doubled it at least. So, but going back to what Stuart was talking about with the range, I can perhaps understand why people are interested in going for the bigger battery, because what are you getting? 275 miles of max WLTP range, yeah, versus the old one, which was 165. So I could see the advantage for us that it's a bit of a pain to have to charge every couple of days. rather than giving it a full blast and you've got your full tank. And that would probably keep us going for a week and a half before we had to charge again.
I think obviously it becomes more of an issue as well for people who don't have home charging. So if you're only reliant on public infrastructure, you want it to be more like a petrol car and that you can chuck a whole lot of range in there and then worry about it. And if you're only doing a low mileage, you might be only go to the rapid charge once every 2 weeks. But it's as well, if you're going to get to these rapid charge like I did, and there's 4 DPD delivery drivers waiting to charge their car because their depot hasn't had chargers installed yet, and they've done a 12-hour shift and they're thoroughly fed up, but they have to charge it, otherwise they won't be able to do work tomorrow.
Right.
And there's 2 Porsche Taycans on there that were charging from like 10% to 90%. And then there was an MG5 owner who I didn't see the entire time we were there, but he was at about 40-50%, so he must have only just plugged in before we got there. So the infrastructure needs a massive kick in the bum to get going and to actually supply all these cars. There's a stat came today. Was it for every one rapid charger they're installing at the moment, there's 54 electric plug-in cars being sold in the UK. So the infrastructure is massively behind the car sales. A couple of quick questions I've just seen on the forum from people. Chris Carlos says, will the new ZS EV brake lights come on when using KERS mode 3 from the factory? Yes, they will. Will it require a software update? No, it won't. Just the MG5? Yeah, it was a recall in the MG5. It's configured wrong from the factory, and they're fixing that. Won't be an issue for you guys in Europe because it's all sorted before it even gets to the shores. Gary says he's been told his new MG ZS EV Trophy Connect will be here by the end of the year. I've not been in the office today, so it may well be that everyone's suddenly got a lot of phone calls this weekend saying we've seen your cars on the transporter and it's going to be coming before Christmas, which is a fantastic Christmas present for these people. Jake said, yeah, don't forget that the new Mark II facelift ZS EV has got over-the-air software updates. It does. So yeah, in theory, as long as it's nothing mechanical that needs swapping, if it's just a software tweak, they'll be able to do that over the air with all of the versions of the new ZS EV. So there won't be any more queuing up for updates in the dealerships, which is fantastic news for dealerships because, to be fair, it was a bit of a pain in the bum. It will update everything. It'll update braking ECUs and everything. So it's not just the sat nav that gets updated over the air. It is the whole car can be updated over the air. Jimmy's asked, can the Trophy be upgraded to the Trophy Connect? No. It's got a whole load of different technical words, gubbins behind the dashboard. It's got a telecommunications ECU. It's got a multi-network SIM card, which automatically hops onto the strongest network in the area. So it work on in the UK it works on EE, O2, Voda, 3, and just hop automatically onto the fastest of those networks. So whichever's got the strongest signal strength. There is a 1 gigabyte fair usage policy per month on the data SIM that's in the car. So you're not going to start using it as a hotspot for your kids to watch YouTube videos on. Whether they'll refresh that, and they've got option to, I suppose, increase that in the future, but yeah, it's at the moment it's 1 gigabyte is the data they're allowed for giving. It's supposed to be for mapping updates and for streaming the odd tune off Amazon, not for, I say, being a hotspot for you to watch your Netflix on. Right, I think there's more questions on. Have I missed any on the actual forum itself? I'm just going to go back through and double check on that actually, because I think.
Yeah, let me bring the browser up.
Yeah,
some quick suggestion for the refresh. So there's a couple of questions from Barry H. What's the truth about the seats in the Trophy? Are the same as the original exclusive I have, but with red contrast stitching, or have they been upgraded with softer PU leather and more foam padding? I'm hearing both from different dealers. Both can't be true.
The seats in the Trophy are different to the ones they were in the original exclusive. They have more padding. They have about 1 inch of extra memory foam type padding around them. They're wider as well, and they do feel a lot more comfortable. And as me and Jake spent the best part of 5-6 hours sat in the car the other day when we were doing the charging test, and they definitely felt the difference. He's also asked, what was the next question? Sorry, Stuart.
What are you really getting for the extra money with the Trophy Connect package over the that of the Trophy without the Connect package? Do you really get nothing more than you would with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto?
You get the ability to do voice controls in the car, So you can say things like set the car temperature to 24 degrees and it'll do that for you. You can say open the roof, close the roof. You can give it spoken nav directions or things like that if you're using the inbuilt nav. If you're using Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, a lot of that is covered with that functionality. But it means that if you don't have your smartphone with you, or if you don't have a smartphone, full stop, but you don't have a cable, you can still do the sort of spoken replies to messages and things like that you would do normally with CarPlay or Android Auto. The other thing you have is you have a point of interest search on the Connect, so you can search for example, nearest McDonald's, and it'll come up rather than on the normal navigation system. You wouldn't be able to search for the name of a place. You'd have to search for generally restaurants, and it'd pull up a big long list. So
I noticed that actually. It's when I was in the car doing the test drive. I wanted to drive back to the dealer, which was Unity in Coventry, and so I just typed in Unity, and it found it. And that was one of the things that I didn't like about what's the rival to ZapMap, a better route planner.
Yeah.
That didn't have businesses in it, so I don't. It might be different now, but when I tested it, and it's the reason why I ditched it in the end, because like I want to drive to a business. You want to just put the name of like you can with Google, put the name of the business and off you go. But this is one of the reasons why I like the sat nav in the new ZS, because you can just start typing the business name and there it is in the suggestions. Click and you're off you go. It's that easy.
Do you get the same functionality with the app on the lower priced version, the one that's not Trophy Connect?
There's a couple of differences. So on the app that is on a non-Connect car. On the Connect version, you can also, the majority of things are the same. There's a couple of differences. The differences are you can't send a route to the car unless you've got Connect. And the other thing, with the Connect, I haven't tested this with the normal one, but with the Connect, you can actually use your phone as, that's the app, by the way. You can use the phone as the key. So you can actually unlock the car from the app. You can get inside and using the Bluetooth connection, it can actually then start the car. You can only do that starting the car if you're physically in the car. It won't, because it uses Bluetooth. It won't do it, if you're 2 miles away or whatever and you're doing it over the air. It won't let it. You can unlock it remotely and you can lock it remotely, but you can't start the car remotely. You've got to be in the vehicle for that to work.
Inspired by Tesla.
Yeah, but it's
not. For me, the biggest hindrance is why we've always got a start-stop button. What was brilliant with the Tesla, you just got in it and you went D. And off you went,
Yeah, but that's the thing. So my wife's got the Volvo XC40 recharge now, and that doesn't have a key as such. You just have a card that you keep in your pocket, and when you get in the car, you just again put your foot on the brake, select a gear, and it's ready to go straight away. And then when you come to a stop, you press park, and you just get out the door, close the door, lock it, and walk away, and it works. But I have left it sort of on, but not locked it, because I've sort of just got out of the car and left it, and the stereo's still been playing, and I forgot to press the button on the door to lock it, that sort of thing. But it's good. My wife's, I say often, my wife, when she's going to and from the car, she's got handfuls of stuff, so it's best if she doesn't have to rummage around for keys or anything like that, and it takes keyless entry a lot better. So
buttons, where are we going? We don't need buttons.
True, yeah.
Question from JC Flippen. Does the Trophy have local rapid charger info on the sat nav, or is it only on the Connect?
Pass. I've only driven the Connect version. I've not tried the non-Connect version. The Connect version did have the rapid chargers in there. I don't know if the non-Connect version does. I think it does still have points of interest in there as chargers. I'm pretty sure it's got the chargers in there. Whether you can filter on what type of charger they are, I don't know.
I think I need to spend like lots and lots of hours writing more FAQ.
Oh God, yeah.
It's certainly not a simple decision to make. £500 is £500, but if you've got Spotify and Google Maps.
So the Amazon Music you have, if you don't have a paid for Amazon Prime account, you need to create an Amazon account to use the in-car Amazon Music. If you don't have Prime, then you basically get like a Spotify basic type account. So it's to let you stream certain songs, but you don't necessarily have access to the full back catalogue of all music. And every few songs, it'll play a little advert for like 15 seconds, and then it'll start the next song. If you have Amazon Music, or if you've got Amazon Prime account and you log in with that, then that gives you access to more music, and it doesn't have the adverts in there. So you don't need to have a paid for Amazon account for it to work, but if you do, you'll have slight benefits over if you didn't and just use a free account.
But I assume if you're connected to Android Auto and Spotify, then data's going through your phone, yeah?
Yeah, if you use Android Auto and everything like that, then that's just that uses your normal phone data. If you're using the Amazon Music from in the car rather than through Amazon Android Auto or CarPlay, then it streams using the inbuilt data SIM, so it uses that.
I must admit, I was impressed. I saw your video of the review of the app, and when you started saying to the car, you press the button and just say open the sunroof, and it just says yes. It doesn't. If you go into the Neo and it's got this know me thing, and you say something to it, it says, "What can I do for you?"
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Well, I've just said hi, know me. Of course, I want you to do something, so you get this interaction. But I was quite impressed with the fact that it understood you without any issues, and sunroof opened. You changed the temperature without any real safety point of view, rather than fiddling. Yeah, maybe it's worth it for that. But
my distant background, because you were in software, weren't you, John?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So my distant background is in software. I started programming like the Commodore PET when I was about 14, 1979, and a lot of what makes cars good is making a good user interface.
Absolutely.
And this is where I think because Tesla basically is a computer. The software with a software interface on wheels,
right?
With a big battery, right? Basically, but it obviously extends to other elements of how you use the car. So one thing I didn't like about the new MG is I found that the third stalk for cruise control and lane assist is I found it, maybe it's just because I'm 6'3", but it obscured behind the steering wheel a little bit. And I just felt, and there's little things like that, the everyday user interface, that and anticipating what people need. So in that example you just gave, John, like you're saying, wake up my car, you say hello, or
yeah,
here's one for everybody, Alexa, to then respond with yes, what do you want? It's so redundant.
Yeah, absolutely. The Neo just drives people mad. But I think Stuart, you just press the button on the voice, yeah?
Yeah.
And then I think you just gave the command.
Yes.
Alexa didn't say anything to you. You just said,
no, but
open the sunroof, opening the sunroof.
Yeah. If you don't press the button, there is a command to start the voice thing, and then it does do a beep or whatever, so it's acknowledged that you've used the command word to start it up. But you press the button on the steering wheel, it just works. So
you don't get an interaction with it. What can I do for you today? It's
the whole conversation of just open the roof, just open the roof, just do it,
No, I must admit the app. I thought they'd done a good job. We talked a little bit before we went live that they seem to have cherry picked a few things. But if you want to change the SOC percentage when you're charging. I wanted to limit my e-tron to charging, but it only allows you to go down to 50%. You can't adjust it any lower than 50%. Yeah. So, but why they've done that, I don't know. But anyway, that's as Stuart said, user interface and interaction is very important. And that think about it, it's 2013, so it's 8 years ago that Tesla interface came out, and yes, it's had a few revamps and updates, but it's still essentially the same. So it was a damn good design all those years ago.
Have we got any other, because we're on the hour, any other questions?
I've seen that one coming from Chris Carlos saying, does the Trophy Edition connect to Wi-Fi? If so, does it have the Amazon Music app on as well, so then I can connect my car to the phone tethering it. The only thing is, I said was, I was about to say, just plug the phone in for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay if you can do that, because then it definitely uses the data and it charges your phone at the same time, and you've got access to the Android Auto app, which is probably as quick to use as the. If you've got Android Auto or Apple CarPlay and you've got an Amazon Music app on your phone, that becomes a usable app within Android Auto, so you can just stream your music through there. It'll definitely use the other thing then without having to then tether a Wi-Fi to a hotspot and use more battery power from your phone doing that. You're probably best just using the cable and use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. What else? Jake said, great vehicle to load features to come on the new facelift ZS when we know what the adapter costs are going to be. I believe that in Europe it's around.
I think it's about £200, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's about £200. I think is what the pricing is at. They haven't confirmed the price of the UK yet, and we can't actually order it. It will be coming as a part stroke accessory through the dealer.
I don't know whether it has the same functionality as the Marvel R, but you could actually set the battery limit that you didn't want to go below when it was very sophisticated.
Yeah, you can set the discharge level anything down to 20%, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
You always maintain a reserve in case you want to be able to do 50 miles whatever's the nearest charger. So yeah, that's good.
But were you happy with the speed of the infotainment system? I'd seen a video a couple of weeks ago where somebody said it was laggy, but you seem to be fairly.
I didn't find it particularly laggy. I thought it's a massive improvement over the previous model. Is it as fast as the latest iPad? Probably not. But
No.
I think as an in-car system, I think it's pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, you're right. It's not kind of so instantaneous that you feel it's telepathic, but it's it's certainly fast enough and comparable. I didn't notice any difference between it and my Ioniq, although my Ioniq's 2017, but it was plenty fast enough for me. I mean, and I'm not going to. I wouldn't say that I'd want to pay, say, £20,000 more for a car that's got,
a fast big car display.
yeah, one that's like, however, like count on one hand number of microseconds faster. Yeah, it's fine. I found
the current system is appalling when it comes to changing the temperature. I'd change the car if it wasn't on a fixed lease for 3 years, just to get a more functional infotainment system.
That's one of the reasons why I did the test I did with the voice thing, was to change the temperature to 24 degrees, and it was pretty much straight away. So,
yeah.
And I think as well, the fact you don't have to take your eyes off the screen, off the road, to be able to adjust the temperature and things like that is very good. I haven't found the command for doing the heated seats. I don't know if there is one, but I was shouting all sorts of things about.
I can imagine.
Heat my bum.
It's cold. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's probably the Yorkshire dialect that it doesn't quite understand, Miles.
I was saying, switch on the driver's side heated seat, and he goes, "I'm sorry, I can't help you with this." I was like, you could. But yeah, I don't know what this probably is a command. I just haven't found what it is. I haven't seen a list of them anywhere. The user manual is online now rather than, and it doesn't seem to have one for the infotainment as far as I've seen so far. So I need to dig a bit better and have a look. But
the only question my wife had was as she struggled to strap one of the grandchildren into the back seat, and it was dark, pitch black here, right? Is there a light in the back?
No. No, there isn't. No, there is no heats in there's no lights in the back seat.
She won't buy another one if there's no courtesy lights. Tell you.
There is an armrest and there are rear heating.
Oh yeah.
So, that's an improvement.
Yeah.
But no. So generally, it's a good car. I think that people should go test drive it before there's another lockdown, and see what people say. But think for themselves. But I think it's a good update. We have got, as I'm going to that MG meeting in January, apparently I may be showing some new vehicles there. So that will be interesting to see. I probably can't say any more than that at this stage. I probably shouldn't say that much at this stage. I probably can't even say any more from January, but there are things afoot.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Watch this space.
Definitely, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, like when the ZS first came on the market, you know, and it came with this discount of how many thousands if you were the first within the first so many to order it.
Oh, they matched the government grant, didn't they? So was it $3,500 off if you got
Yeah,
the?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It reduced. Yeah.
And of course, then you know one of the reasons why I kind of saw it and thought, you know, this has got real potential to shake up the market was because it's so cheap. Now, obviously, with the refreshed ZS, it's not quite so cheap anymore. For what it is, it's still an incredibly affordable car, but we're talking nearer 30 than 20 now. So yeah, it would be nice if there was an MG electric car that came out that was nearer 20.
I think the important thing as well is different sizes of vehicles. So we've got, you know, the ZS is a good size family car, and actually when you compare it price for price with, for example, a Qashqai petrol, they come in about the same sort of price, both on cash price and monthly leasing figures. So you know, so that's something, you know, in its benefit. You know, it's not overpriced compared to other cars of its type. But I think that, yeah, a different size car, perhaps something a bit smaller, more MG3 sized would be good. I think there's a big market for that. You know, my eldest son is 15, so in 2 years' time, he's gonna be looking for a first car. Part of me thinks he should go through the pain of having a Fiat Cinquecento in turquoise like I did as my first. But I think that
or a Miev.
yeah, but more likely, I'd probably want to keep him in a car that was safe, so it won't be a Zoe. And I think I'd probably, but no, I think something like, you know, the current MG3 is probably the right size car for a learner driver. For first car, you know, it's a good size. It's got 5 doors. You can still fit, you know, shopping in the back and all the rest of it, but it's, you know, it's not as big and bulky as something like the ZS. So I think that if they do a car like that, which I'm hopeful for, that should hopefully come out this next year, then that would be a really good product. And then there's going to be a couple of cars shown to us. So that's what's intriguing me, because I have no information whatsoever on what the other car might be. It might be the facelift MG5, in which case I'll be really disappointed because I already know what that looks like. But if it's something else, if it's some other, you know, niche that is not been filled yet by MG, then we could be in for an interesting 2022.
Barry Hager in the chat says 1 hour test drive booked for tomorrow, and I would say if anybody wants to see what the new ZS is like, go and get a test drive. It's obviously wear a mask because, you know, you'll get Omicron otherwise. But yeah, just because for me it was a real eye opener. I mean, for people who are on a fixed 3-year lease like you, John, I mean, is there anything that you can do? Would you upgrade if you could?
I think it might be possible. You can always sell on the lease over here. It's not like you can just go in and pay it up. So somebody takes it over, and whatever you put down as a deposit, you haggle about what's left. But my wife's only driven 6,000 kilometers, which is in a year, which is absolutely nothing. So for us, but you know, it's the new stuff. It's the fact that the infotainment system works, charges faster. You know. Looks a little bit better. That bloody charge port on the front is I have to get down on my hands and knees. You know, there's a few things that sort of really do get to you. But that's me. Probably more like you, Stuart, and Miles as well. Something new comes out. Let's jump on the bandwagon. But can't grumble with the car anyway. So it's rattle free. Drives really well. It's a bit of a TARDIS, actually. I think that's something that people don't understand. The boot is really good size. So I agree with Miles as a family car. But yeah, I think if there was a deal going and we could get the bigger battery one, then the convenience of having that. My wife doesn't like to go anywhere unless there's 100 kilometers of range, you know, the range anxiety bit. So that certainly would reduce that particular issue.
Yeah. Shall we, Miles, shall we talk for a moment about Aura Cat?
Oh, we can try. There's not an awful lot of news I can give at the moment. So Aura Cat Aura is a brand which is a Chinese brand, part of Great Wall Motors. They are launching in UK and Europe this next year. We've got the Aura Cat as the first car, which is, again, it's a sort of MG3 sort of size car. Hello, Patrick.
Hello. How are you doing?
Welcome.
Very good, thank you.
Hello, Patrick. Good
Late
luck.
arrival. You've been busy this evening, but it's still nice to see you.
Yeah, no Christmas shopping makes
No, we're just
you getting busy.
we're just going to be talking just saying about the Aura Cat. So Stuart started a forum for Aura because in UK Aura is launching the Cat the next few months,
Okay.
and they're currently in the process of setting up a dealer network for that, which has not been confirmed as yet, and I have no information about that at all, sadly. If I did, I would say something. So at the moment, because I can't keep my mouth shut, but it's potentially it's a car. It's about the MG3 sort of size. The spec looks good. The cost is, sort of low 20s. So sort of £22,000, I think it'll be in the UK for a decent spec or a Cat, which means it's within the realms. I mean, you can pay £28,000 in the UK for a Fiesta these days. So I think that having £22,000 car, it's about the same sort of size as the VW ID3, as Mark's put. I think that it's one to watch. So we've got an Aura Cat for an auraevs.com forum. Right, Stuart, it's www.auraevs.
Yeah. So just like mgevs.com, this is auraevs.com. ORA.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we join on there, and any sort of news snippets that we find out, we will put on that website. It's one to watch. I think it's our experience so far, obviously, with a Chinese brand, MG, has been very positive on the whole. And this new brand that's launching in the UK and across Europe potentially will be something that we should keep an eye on, I think. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. And when we can, we're going to get a vehicle and test drive it and do some reviews and so on. And yeah, as Barry's put, it'll give the Zoe a run for its money then. Yes, it will, yeah. But again, this is sort of, if I'm thinking about a car for my son in a couple of years, this may well be on the cards. So yeah, so looked at about March next year is when everything's due to kick off. Watch this space for dealers.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested in finding out about the Aura Cat, then as a second car after their MG, of course, then go to auraevs.com. Patrick, we were talking earlier about the infotainment system, and you put in the chat that it's much faster than the original. Anything else to add to that?
No, just that it was quite. It's at least twice as fast as the original, I would say. I mean, you touch it, it goes. I mean, it's no lag, no waiting time. It just works like an iPad or something. I mean, it's really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly up there with an Android tablet that wasn't from Samsung, for example. It maybe have ever so slight lag, but you'd have to be very, very sensitive to it to actually pick it up. It's not perceptible when you're using the car normally, in a normal way, as a human being would use the car. It's not an issue at all. There is almost imperceptible lag, yeah. Well, okay, are we kind of...
We're kind of done, aren't we? I mean,
okay, I'll wrap it up then. Okay,
so before, just one last, anything else to add in just to the refreshed ZS, Patrick? Anything else to say about it, having driven it more since you were last on?
Well, no, we have driven it again because I saw that the springs were the same on both model, and I talked to the dealer and he says, yeah, but the thing is the wheels are bigger and the engine is different, reacts a little bit differently, and it makes a smoother ride. So actually they managed to do something quite amazing with the new engine. And as well, the difference as well between the first generation is the traction control on the second generation. It's quite, it works better. I mean, it doesn't spin as fast as with the first one.
That's one of my questions, Patrick, because obviously with the weather we've got here at the moment, even in eco mode, you'll get wheel spin in the damp.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better on the facelifted version.
Yes, definitely. It's quite hard to get wheel spin on eco, and even I tried it in the snow, so it's quite fun. So.
Okay, that was a fleeting visit.
Yeah,
Patrick.
Let's catch you for longer next time, Patrick.
Yeah, we'll try.
Right. Okay. So first of all, many thanks to our newest premium member, Lager Baloo. We appreciate your support. A message to member Wolfie and anyone else having trouble accessing their account, please email admin@mgevs.com for any help if you require that. So before we go, there's a few things I want to bring to everyone's attention. If you're also interested in Aura electric cars and the Aura Cat, sign up to auraevs.com, our sister forum. If you'd like to support us, please consider MGEV's forum premium membership for just £3 a month. It gives you the premium member badge, the ability to upload a profile banner, the ability to select the MG red theme, which is a lot better than the blue one, of course, because red's a better colour than blue. A discount code for the MGEV's merchandise, a full 10% discount when you use the code, and the knowledge that you're helping support the community and this podcast. And finally, please take a look at the merchandise, check it out, and to make that easier, there's a link to the shop on the forum menu. That's it for this week's MGEV's podcast. My thanks go to John Griffiths.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for watching.
Stuart Wright, of course.
Thanks very much, everybody. See you next week.
Patrick, thank you very much for your brief visit.
Pleasure.
I've been Miles Roberts from Chorley Group. We will be back with the MGEVs podcast next Monday. We're not doing it in 2 weeks as we usually do. We're actually doing it next Monday because of Christmas. For the last episode of the year, we'd like to see you all then. Please click for all likes and subscribes. We really appreciate that. Thanks and good night all.
Good night, everybody.